Good evening. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show, our usual Monday night roundup of all the goings on across our region. Of course, last week we ended up doing a Monday show on a Thursday, so it's not been a full week since our last one. But who cares? Here we are. I'm Chris Bell. Did I say joined as always by Gareth Walker and by Stephen Downs. How are we, gents? Are we well?
Better than I was last week.
I mean, that's a good start, Gaz, because you were full of cold and under the weather, but nothing that a weekend on the beer in Doncaster could clear out, I'm sure.
That's about it, yeah. It's a miracle cure.
Yeah, as is, I imagine, a miracle cure, somehow scraping through by your ass on Saturday and still being in a positive position for going into this coming weekend.
Yeah, we'll come on to
that. Dancer, how are you doing if we take the football out of it, since it's 5 straight consecutive defeats, 5 in a row for Huddersfield Town on the 5 of those little L's on the form chart. Aside from that, how are you?
Yeah, apart from that, I'm absolutely golden, Chris. Just a quick public message to all those: please do drink responsibly, even if you have got a cold. Yeah, I'm all good, mate. I'm glad the season's over. To be absolutely honest, it's one of them minutes where you get to the end and it's just when your team's not to play for, and you know the lads can't be arsed, so neither can I really.
Well, there's still one more game to go, mate, and with a positive goal difference, one more chance for Lincoln to finish above Huddersfield Town. So fingers crossed, although to be fair, we have got Wrexham at home, so I'm not exactly holding out much hope on that one. Let's turn our attention for now, though, to the fact that tonight Leeds United are in Championship action. We won't be joined by Jay or Brownie because for some reason they can't bear to bring themselves on here and away
from the Robins
a few minutes. But they will, I believe, be on later on tonight, probably shortly after full time of the Leeds United game, to bring their live match reaction to that one. So we will turn our attention to Bradford City. And as we mentioned, Gaz, you had the weekend in Doncaster. It was all booked and planned, but sadly, you weren't able to be one of the 1,500 City fans. I say sadly, not able to be one of the 1,500 City fans in there. As it turns out, you might have been glad you were watching it in the pub instead.
Yeah, we always go. Me and I've got a couple of groups of mates that I go watching City with, and one that I go with probably more often, the lads that I sit with at home games. We always go away for the last game of the season. We just go and stay over wherever we're playing, wherever that may be. So we've done Crewe, we've done Tranmere, we've done Sutton,
all
we've done Scunthorpe twice, 2 years on the trot. So, yeah, it was Donny. And obviously, Donny, I think we've discussed on the pod before. Last 2 times we've been to Donny, City have taken 3,000-4,000 supporters. But Grant McCann got himself involved in ticket arrangements, wanted us given the minimum possible, which is by FA rules 10% or AFL rules 10% of capacity. So, City were only given 1,500 tickets. And then it came down to loyalty points or away points, whatever you want to call them, that fans have on who got priority to get the tickets. I think I had the most out of this group of friends, and I was 50 points short of the cut-off, so we were all in the lump with remaining season ticket holders, and we didn't get them. But because we already had the hotel booked and everything, we decided to go anyway.
That's mad, Gaz. Gaz, that's absolutely mental. You were 50 points short, and you go to loads of away games. That's mental. You must have had to go to every game, near enough.
I don't know. I don't know how the cut-off is. Because it was 1,500, I don't know how many they kept back just for the season ticket holders or for the season ticket holder pool. Because they obviously keep some back that can just go to all season ticket holders. Whether they should do that or not, I don't know. Whether they should all go to those with points, the ones with the most points get them. Maybe they should. I don't know. But I'm obviously just outside the top 1,500, I guess, is where I lie. But like I said, the lads that I go with all had less than me. So I would have, even if I had enough, I probably wouldn't have gone anyway because the lads that were going, we didn't have enough. So yeah, it was annoying and very, very, very. I know we've talked about this before. Grant McCann now on a bit of a hate list at City and as are Doncaster. But having sat in the pub watching the game, we did sort of say in a way, kind of glad I wasn't in the ground with the way it panned out. It panned out how the previous 3 games have panned out. The last 4 games, City have had it in their hand numerous times to see a automatic promotion, and we keep shooting ourselves in the foot, whether that be red cards, whether that be horrendous substitutions from Graham Alexander, basically just a lack of discipline and a lack of mental strength. And we have not got over the line, and we've chucked it with late goals conceded, etc., etc. And it felt like on Saturday, I mean, I put a tweet out when Aidan Baldwin got himself sent off at half-time that it was 1,001 ways to chuck away automatic promotion by Bradford City. And then, obviously, Tyreek Wright took and missed the penalty, so I asterisked it and said 1,002 ways to miss automatic promotion by Bradford City.
You were taking it well.
Right, we're going to come on to the penalty. I know Chris is going to discuss the penalty with me later on. No blame whatsoever on Tyreek Wright, but there are other people in that squad that probably should have stepped up to take that pen. Missed the pen. Aidan Baldwin sent off for shouting at the referee at half-time after the whistle had gone as they're walking off the pitch. 2 more ways to tuck it away, like I say, along with the previous red card from Richie Smallwood, the horrendous substitutions, the late goals conceded against Chesterfield and Swindon. So just a lack of mental strength and a total self-implosion and shooting yourself in the foot and lack of discipline. And it's cost us so far. But we go to Saturday with somehow it's still in our hands on Saturday because Accrington did us a favour against Walsall.
Yeah, we'll come to what lies ahead shortly. In terms of the sending off, let's start with that one then as a talking point from Saturday. I mean, am I right in thinking that the first yellow card was dissent? It was for, something that Baldwin had said that the referee didn't like.
Yeah, now we talked. You asked me about this before we went live, didn't you, Chris? Because you weren't sure exactly what had gone on.
Yeah,
there was debate whether it was 2 yellow cards or whether it was a yellow card and a straight red. We are now told it was a yellow card and a straight red, and both were for dissent. So as they're walking off the pitch at half-time, Aidan Baldwin is chatting to the referee. You can see he's not happy, and as the conversation's going and going, he's getting more and more irate, and the next minute, the yellow card comes out. He's one of the last people off the pitch. The only other people that I can see on the pitch at that time are Sam Walker, the referee and his 2 assistants, who Aidan Baldwin's interacting with, and Sam Walker, the City goalkeeper, who's behind them, and he's jogging over towards them. And after he gets the yellow card, Sam Walker's trying to push him out of the way, telling him to get inside, just get inside. You can see him saying, just get inside, come on, just get inside. And the referee's saying to him, just go inside. He's pointing, just go inside, just get inside.
And Aidan Baldwin,
carries on walking. He gets him away. He gets him away a little bit, but as he's got him away and he's in front of the linesman, he turns round and he's saying something else, and he's shouting and he's screaming at him as he's saying something else. And then the red card comes out and it's a straight red. So it's not even 2 yellows for dissent. It's a yellow and then a straight red for dissent. So the only other person that you see on the camera at that time is Jordan Gibson, the Doncaster winger, who has a very, very...
Ex-Carlisle.
He has a very, very, shall we say, tempestuous relationship with Bradford City supporters because he used to play for City. His dad is very active on social media and has got into arguments with City supporters on social media throughout Jordan's career at City and throughout Jordan's career at Carlisle. Every time we've played Carlisle, because obviously he was there up until this season, he was at Carlisle. The chant has gone up from the away fans, your dad's a CUNT and so are you. And he just loves winding City supporters up and City love winding him up. And to be fair to him, the only interaction he has is after the red card comes out, he's clapping the referee. So he's not really had anything to do with it. This is all on Aidan Baldwin. This is on Aidan Baldwin and nobody else. Graham Alexander, he's asked about it afterwards. And he says he's not spoken to Aidan about it. He's spoken to the referee about it. And Graham Alexander's words were, the referee had no other course of action. So Graham Alexander is saying he agrees, therefore, with the yellow card and then the straight red card for dissent. So they are clearly not happy with Aidan Baldwin. He basically also says that they had a discussion with senior players during the week leading up to the game about how as I've discussed, things have been going against us in the last 3 or 4 games, particularly at away games, and how in previous years we've coped better away than we have at home, and we've overcome that. And the home form, we've managed it with the big crowds, and we've managed to rectify it all. But for some reason, we're not coping at away games in particular, and we're chucking late goals away, red cards, poor substitution, like I talked about before. And he said that they had spoken to the senior players and they had encouraged them to help the younger players deal with this kind of environment and this running. But Aidan Baldwin is a senior player, and the last thing he expected was one of the senior players to go and do something like that. And he said that he didn't know anything about it because he was already in the dressing room. He heard a commotion in the tunnel. Sam Walker came in and said Aidan's been sent off. And that was all he knew. When he'd not spoken to Aidan, he spoke to the referee, and the referee had no other course of action. And we've heard nothing from City since then about that.
I mean, what Walker will have heard what he said, obviously. But
you would imagine so.
I watched the footage, guys, because I watched the replay afterwards, sort of the reaction and stuff, and it's just like I just find it mad. Like you said, the referee's telling him to go inside. Walker, his own keeper, saying get inside. You know, the 2 experienced lads there. It'd be maybe more understandable if it's 2 like 18-year-old kids, but it's not. It's two really players. Experienced, like, but like not just like senior players, but really experienced lads as well. And he just lost his head, hasn't he? And he's just like, and I can't believe how you've had 2 sendings off like that have caused you big problems in 2 key games. I just find it mental. I'd be tearing my hair out as a City fan. I'd be like, what are we actually doing? Because the goals from Donny, I didn't think were that great, if I'm honest. I mean,
well, we're going to come on to I'm sure we'll come on to that as well.
Cue Billy Sharp scoring.
Go on to it if you want. Go on to it now.
Well, the first half, I think when the conversation you first see Baldwin talking to the referee, he's saying my shirt's being pulled at every set piece. I think that's what he's saying. I think that's how the conversation starts. But that's just me, obviously, from what I can see. It might be complete. That might not be at all. But I think that's how the conversation starts and it escalates. The first goal's from a set piece, corner into the box. Neil Byrne, don't get me started. People haven't wanted him in the team for a while, playing right centre half. He gets beaten to the first header at the back post. It's headed back into the 6-yard box, and then Rob Street beats Aidan Baldwin to the header and heads it past. So we lose 2 headers, and Rob Street, the second one, heads it past Sam Walker. We just say here, Sam Walker is the ultimate professional. Sam Walker, I can't believe Aidan Baldwin don't listen to him, because Sam Walker, every time you hear him talk, he's one of the calmest people you can hear talk. You can tell he's a senior pro. He's been there and done it. Aidan should have listened to him, and Sam's trying desperately to get him out of the way of the referee, and he's just not having it. And I think it's disgusting. And you've got City players, City fans on social media at half-time, or since half-time, saying that Aidan Baldwin shouldn't play for City again after that. And it might be a heat-of-the-moment comment, and people might reconsider, especially if we win on Saturday and get promoted. But that is the strength of feeling at the moment after what he's done, because he's a senior pro and he's got to know better. The second goal...
How do you feel about that, Gaz? Sorry, are you one of these? Or are you a bit... Because I imagine you're a bit more balanced about it.
Yeah, I'm a bit older.
It's a bit cringy, to be honest, sometimes.
Yeah, like, you know, you've got 2 games, 1 game left now, you know, unless you go in playoffs, which hopefully you don't. But you need, you know, you can't just chuck him out at squad for nothing, really.
He's got another year on his contract, and he's been reasonably good this season, to be fair. I'm a bit older, and I'm very careful as I've got older to not speak in the heat of the moment. As you know, I don't normally message during games on group chats because emotions just flying around, and I don't agree. I don't think it's right. You've got to be calm when you speak. I don't know. I think it'll calm down. People will probably feel differently in a few days. People will definitely feel differently if it goes our way on Saturday. The second goal I was just going to come on to comes immediately after we've missed the penalty. We're all sitting there in the pub, and we're saying, I'm glad we've not scored yet. We actually played a lot better with 10 men than we did in the first half. City do this. City play better when they go down to 10 men quite often. And we're saying as the second half goes on, someone said at half time, I bet we play better with 10 men, you know. And we actually were probably the better team in the second half, even though we had 10 men. And we're sitting there and we're saying, if we score, I really hope it's near the end of the game, because after what's happened in stoppage time in the last 2 away games where we've chucked it away with late goals conceded, I want to give, if we do score, I want to give Donny as little time as possible to score again. And we get a penalty in the 85th minute. And we'll talk about the penalty separately in a few minutes, but we missed the penalty. And then there's a bit of a furore in the away end. I don't know if the City fans are kicking off. There's something going on because it's happened. The missed penalty happens in front of the City fans. Something happens in the away end, and there's a delay, and the game doesn't restart straight away. And then immediately, when it does restart, the ball gets pumped up to Billy Sharp. Billy Sharp, who always scores against City. He's not been on the pitch for very long. He's come on as a substitute, goes through, scores. It's 2-0 to Doncaster. They're all going mental because it's like the 86th, 87th minute. They're winning 2-0. They're guaranteeing that they've sealed automatic promotion. And that's it. And obviously, you feel there's very little we can do about that because City are pushing forward. But Graham Alexander did say after the game that there's been a delay after the penalty. We've got time to reset ourselves, get into position, and I'm disappointed that he's managed to get clean through on goal because there's been a delay. We had the time to reset, and we've not done it. But obviously, emotions are flying around. Everyone's head's frazzled because we've just missed the pen and everything that's going on. So you kind of understand it. Stupid thing is, what did we do after they'd gone 2-0 up? We went and bloody scored, didn't we? We went and bloody scored. Yeah. So it just feels, as I keep saying, that over these last 4 games, City have found new ways to hurt supporters. It just feels really, really cruel. The way that we've chucked it away in stoppage time, the way that we've made terrible substitutions. There's been a lack of discipline. There's been head loss and weak mentality. And then on Saturday, we just topped it all off by what Bowen did, and then by missing the pen with 5 minutes to go. And I don't know. I just feel like City fans at that moment in time just can't take anymore, honestly. And I know it's a totally different sort of can't take anymore to what's going on at Town, because Town have obviously got issues that are depressing the supporters.
Oh, we're just crap, mate. We'll get on to that. You've actually been half decent this season.
It's a different type, because obviously City, our feelings are the way we are because we've had this opportunity that we've not had in 25, 26 years. Yeah. And in the last 4 games, it feels like we've self-destructed on numerous occasions, and that's why City fans are so felt like they'd had enough at half-time and at full-time on Saturday.
I was not shocked that Billy Sharp scored. Not shocked. He was on the field for a minute or something like that.
He came on in the 69th minute.
The thing is with Billy Sharp, he got sent off a few games ago. I don't know if you know. City fans were saying, "Oh, brilliant! At least he won't be playing against us." But when you actually looked at it, it was his first game back from his suspension. So City fans, other fans were correcting him, saying he will be playing and he will score.
Yeah, what did he get? What did he get sent off for? Didn't he get sent off for?
It was a headbutt, I think, either a headbutt or an elbow. Headbutt or an elbow at a set piece.
But it was a bit weird. Like you couldn't see actually what had happened.
Yeah, it looked like a contentious red. To be fair to him at the time. Let's kind of briefly touch on the penalty situation. Obviously, it was Tyreek Wright that took it, and Graham Alexander. He stopped short of saying that Tyreek shouldn't have taken it, but he kind of implied that there were, what was it he said? There were something along the lines of, and to paraphrase here, other players on the pitch that he would have expected to take the penalty.
Yeah, I've literally just told you that, Chris, before we went on air.
Yeah, I was.
Wow, go on, Gaz, call him out.
That Gaz,
call him out.
That is it. That is literally it. Basically, the penalty is given. It looks a soft penalty to me, to be honest. I was surprised it was given. I don't really know what it was given for, but obviously there's 5 minutes to go, 85th minute. We're all thinking a draw is going to be a fantastic result here if we score it. We've already missed one penalty in the run-in, Richie Smallwood at Port Vale, where we're 2-0 down, penalty 89th minute. Smallwood has it saved by the keeper, and we sitting there in the away end at Port Vale saying if that had gone in, I think Port Vale's arse had gone, and we could have equalised in that game as well, because there were 7 minutes added on at the end of that game. 85th minute, Doncaster, another penalty. George Lapsley actually gets hold of the ball. And City have done this before, and I think other clubs do it, where the player who gets hold of the ball is not necessarily the player who's going to take the penalty. He's keeping it, they're trying to keep the pressure off the penalty taker. And George Lapsley has hold of the ball. And then all of a sudden, he gives the ball to Tyreek Wright. And we're sitting there in the pub why is Tyreek Wright taking this penalty? Really, really odd. He's been in and out of the team this season through form and injury. And I hadn't actually thought until after the game. The keeper saves it, by the way. It's not a badly struck penalty. It's not in the corner, but it's at a decent height for the keeper to save. He hits it fairly well, and the keeper goes the right way and saves. It's one of those where if the keeper goes the right way, he's going to save it. Yeah. But it's not badly struck. And I hadn't actually thought until afterwards, and both Alex Patterson, who was captain on the day because Richie Smallwood was obviously suspended, and Graham Alexander had asked about it after the match. Graham Alexander's words were, as you say, Chris, as I told you before we went live, pretty much that there were other players on that pitch who have scored or taken penalties in those kind of situations before and who have scored goals this season. Tyreek Wright hasn't scored a goal this season, and he would expect those players to have been keen to take that penalty. Alex Patterson, all he said on it, who was captain on the day, was that Tyreek Wright wanted to take it. Now, City fans are saying, yeah, there were other people. City fans are disappointed that Alex Patterson as captain didn't want to take that penalty. Alex Patterson is a brilliant striker of the ball, as we all know. George Lapsley himself, who had hold of the ball, will have taken, or I'm guessing, will have scored or definitely played, if not taken penalties and scored in those kind of situations before. Another experienced player, another good striker of the ball. Tyreek Wright isn't known for his ball striking ability, although, as I'll say, he actually strikes it really well. So, yeah, City fans are disappointed that such as Patterson and maybe Lapsley or maybe even Michael Mellon, who's taken penalties before and was on the pitch, didn't take it. Michael Mellon had come on as a sub for Callum Kavanagh, who is a very, very confident young lad and has previously voiced, I think, opinions about wanting to take penalties. So if he'd have been on the pitch, maybe he would have taken it, but he'd been subbed. Obviously, Richie Smallwood is our penalty taker and was suspended. Anthony Sarcevic took the penalty at Chesterfield and scored. We've had 3 penalties in the running. The one that Smallwood missed at Port Vale, the one that Sarcevic scored at Chesterfield, and then this one that Wright's missed. Sarcevic was off the pitch. He'd been subbed, so he couldn't take it. Obviously, you'd normally look at Andy Cook, who's taken penalties before, has been taken off penalty duty because he'd missed a few, and that's why Smallwood is our nominated penalty taker. But Andy Cook maybe would have stepped up in such a situation. He's obviously injured long term, so he's not there. So you've no Pat, you've no Smallwood, you've no Sarcevic, you've no Cook, you've no Kavanagh. Now I don't know how this situation works. Do clubs have a hierarchy of do we have a list of 10 penalty takers? I don't know. On Football Manager, as you know, Chris, you nominate as many penalties. You can nominate loads, can't you? A hierarchy. In real life, I don't know how it works. Is there a nominated penalty?
Some clubs do have a list, don't they? Some clubs do have a list, but like at Town, we haven't had a penalty for 1,600 days now, so nobody knows who the hell would take a penalty. The other comment that I'd make is, like, fair play. If he said that he wants to take up and take it, and nobody else has put their hand up, he's got some balls to do it, and in a game like that. That's what we all said,
down to it. At the end of the day, there is absolutely no criticism on Tyreek Wright here. No. He's put his hand up and said, he's shown some bollocks and said, I'll take this penalty.
Shows the more experienced lads, or the lads that should be going up and taking it. I always remember when we had Jordan Rhodes in the team, even in the season where he scored 40 goals, he never took a penalty. It was mad. It'd always be Theo Robinson.
Some players don't like taking them full stop, and I kind of understand that if you don't want to. Even strikers, like you say, like Jordan Rhodes don't always like taking penalties.
No, I mean, the only thing that I would say is if Tyreek wants a penalty lesson, I am here. I've got experience of, on the penalty spot, so I could give him a few lessons.
Yeah, so we don't know. We don't know how. City fans are saying that Graham Alexander should have had a nominated penalty taker, but because we had so many penalty takers off the pitch not available. How far down had we gone? I don't know how much you can look at Alexander there. I don't know. But yeah, that's what happened.
Let's move on from that then, because fast forward from 2:30 in the aftermath of the Doncaster result, you're sitting there in your pub in Donny thinking, we've made a mess of this. Walsall will be Accrington. We're down to 4th. We're throwing it away. fast forward to 5 o'clock, and you're I was going to say hometown, but what your lovely little mill town in Lancashire where you reside, do you a massive bloody favour by going to Walsall and getting a 1-0 win to leave it in City's hands for Saturday. What are the chances of that? And have you been round to give John Dool a nice peck on the cheek?
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? And as you know, I'd kind of resigned myself to the playoffs from the debacle at Swindon. So what's happened since then, with Notts County, Chesterfield, Notts County, Chesterfield, Doncaster, I think City fans have just joined me in we're going to end up in the playoffs, we're going to bottle it category since then. So I wasn't quite as irate, down, depressed, angry as a lot of City fans were after the final whistle against Doncaster, because I'm kind of already there after Chesterfield and Swindon. But yes, you're right. Somehow, it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? Because we've been thrown another scrap of hope by what Accrington managed to do at Walsall. Walsall, you talk about us bottling it.
On this, I bloody told you on Thursday's show that Accrington would not roll over for Walsall, and that there was a strong chance that Walsall, because they go into that without winning 12. I said on Thursday's show that I thought that Walsall wouldn't win, by the way. Just pointing that out.
You did. My argument was that they will win eventually, because they will. But you're right. You didn't think they'd win on Saturday, and they didn't. As I say, the number of ways that we've chucked it away and bottled it, it feels like we're just being... Walsall are doing it as much, if not more so, than we are.
13 games now for them without a win. And you've got to think for Walsall, in that 13 games, all they'd have needed was a win, and they'd still be in the automatics going to the final day. It's mad.
But you've both got dead rubbers in the last game. You're at Fleetwood. You should go and beat blooming Fleetwood.
At home.
At home, and they've got Crewe away. All right, I know Crewe's like we did say last week. Crewe's not always the easiest place to go, and it ain't. That is true. But they've got no to play for either. They'll be on the beach. Them lads looking forward to their holiday, which won't be in Crewe, by the way.
And Crewe are in horrible form as well. Fleetwood actually we've looked at Fleetwood. Fleetwood actually have a really good away record this season. Crewe are in horrible form. But
it's in your hands, Gaz. It's in your hands. The City fans have got to get up for Saturday, and
they will. They will. It's now sold out. What? 3 times over.
I can't comprehend how we keep getting thrown these chances. Now, I, as the pessimist that I am, look at it equally as another opportunity. As much as it is another opportunity to seal automatic promotion, it is another opportunity to kick the fans in the bollocks again, like we have done over the last 3 or 4 games. That is how it feels. Equally, it is there in both. There's both scenarios, isn't there? There's both scenarios. It's either if we win and we get promoted, or we get over the line, everything that's gone before is forgotten about. If we don't, then these guys are going to... I'm sorry, but these guys are going to go down as some of the biggest bottlers in the club's history if this doesn't happen.
You can just see it now. Not to be pessimistic, guys, but you can just see it, can't you? Last 96th minute or whatever, both games have gone to like extra time, 95th minute. And they score. Walsall score, and your game's at 4-4, and City concede a late winner to what you can just see, can't you?
Well, the thing is, I saw someone put on social media that while us and Walsall are competing for who is the biggest bottlers of the season, we've actually thrown Notts County a chance of automatic promotion on the last day, because if they beat Doncaster at home, and we lose and Walsall lose, Notts County finish 3rd.
Oh, my God.
So if we continue to bottle it and Walsall continue to bottle it...
Oh, my God, they do.
There is a chance that Notts County finish 3rd and get that last automatic promotion spot.
Yeah.
Because they would finish level on points with us, and they have a better goal difference than us.
By 2 as well. Yeah, by 2 as it stands. And obviously for you to lose in...
Who do they play? Donny.
They're at home to Donny, who obviously will want to
Donny going for the title, though.
Try and win the league.
Yeah. So that, to be fair, it's not a gimme, is it? Because Donny are going to go all out, aren't they, to win the league? Which I hope they do, by the way, because I win 20 quid if they do.
Which would Grant McCann like more, though? A title on the CV, or to throw Bradford completely on the bus and drops them to the playoffs?
The other thing is as well, a name that you know well, Downsy, and obviously played for us on loan from you, and had another, as we talked about, Jordan Gibson's tempestuous relationship with Bradford City supporters. Another guy who had a tempestuous relationship with Bradford City supporters is Cian Harrott. And so just thank God that he no longer plays for Fleetwood.
Oh, is it Oldham? I know.
He would have been nailed on to score on Saturday. You could guarantee he would have scored on Saturday. He's now at Oldham, so at least that's taken away. But yeah, you're right.
He's thrown his on his career gap. He's thrown his career under the bus. I can't believe that he. No, he has, Chris. He has. He's gone from starting at Town against Watford and scoring, and scoring goals to now playing for Oldham. It's only 2 years ago because he was playing under Warnock.
Well, he obviously scored the goal in the playoff final for Port Vale. He came to us with a very good reputation, and he looked good when he played. I believe I'm only whatever they call it, hypothesizing here, but the way things have gone with his hair coursing and his off the field issues, I'm wondering if there's some kind of off field attitude thing there with him because he clearly has ability. But he would have scored on Saturday, nailed on. So thank God he's not playing.
I mean, I remember seeing a couple of months back now, he came off the bench for Oldham at half-time against Rochdale, and he spent the entire second half just offside time and time again.
He's terrible.
He's off something. He's offside. Leeds have taken the lead, by the way, against Bristol City. I'm just going to say that as it's happened. Tanaka has scored for Leeds, so Leeds are 1-0 up against Bristol City.
Just read the WhatsApp chat. Jay said that they're playing sexy football. Oh, my God.
Backwards and sideways, but yes. Sorry, guys.
The last thing on City is, and you mentioned it, Chris, I think it was just worth saying, it is sold out at City on Saturday. It's one of those other bumper crowds. The other bumper crowds this season have coincided with ticket offers. There's no ticket offer on Saturday. The City crowd was showing us sold. The City Stadium was showing us sold out. Valley Parade was sold out on Saturday night because I had people messaging me saying, it looks like it's sold out. Do you know I can get a ticket? And then they reconfigured the stadium, which I believe means moving certain people out of certain areas or moving away fans into certain areas. And it basically released an extra 500 tickets, which went on sale. I think, well, I might be wrong with that. I don't know how many it released. It released an extra number of tickets.
Right. I think you're right. I think the article may have said about 500, and then obviously they'd all gone before. Because I had a look when I saw that article go out about half an hour or so after it had. Yeah. And they'd all gone at that point. So
they went on sale at 5 p.m. They went on sale at 5 p.m. and were sold by 5:10, I believe. So it's another sellout. The City crowd just have to try and forget about everything that's gone on in the last 4 games and get behind that team on Saturday and try and get them over the line. That's the only thing we can do. We have to do what we did, the atmosphere that we created against Colchester and Crewe. We have to try and do it again and somehow get these lads over the line because they clearly need us as much as we need them, and we need to do it. We need to get them over the line on Saturday. It is our chance. If you would have offered us at the start of the season, beat Fleetwood at home to win promotion, to win automatic promotion, we would have taken it. We have got to do it. We have got to do it. Forget that we were 8 points clear of fourth at one point. Forget everything that's happened in the last 4 games. We need to get over that line on Saturday. Are they going to go down as City heroes? First automatic promotion in 26 years. Are they going to go down as some of the biggest bottlers in the club's history? This is on the line now. We've got to do our best to help them on Saturday. Get them over that line and get into League One.
And sadly, mate, your good luck charm. I couldn't get a ticket, so I won't be there. I was there for the Boxing Day game up against Port Vale, and you won. I was there for the Colchester game with you, and you won. Well, I mean, if you can get me a ticket, you might stand a chance.
It'll break
Chris a ticket. Find Chris a ticket.
It'll break my bloody heart if Bradford didn't go this season, just for you guys.
Yeah. The issue when you're talking about the team selection is obviously that Baldwin is now suspended, so he won't be playing on Saturday. Kieran Kelly is injured, and one of the other centre halves, Jack Shepherd, apparently who's been one of our best centre halves this season. He wasn't on the bench even on Saturday. He's apparently got a groin injury. So we play 3 at the back. We have 6 centre-halves on the books. 3 of them are 6 or 7 if you include Callum Johnson, who can play right centre-half.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, particularly who plays in the middle of the 3 on Saturday, because Baldwin and Shepherd have been playing there, and it looks like neither of them are going to be able to play in the middle of the 3 on Saturday. So does Paul Huntington come into play? There is he's done a job in the past up against target men. I don't know who's up front for Fleetwood. He does a job against target men, but if it's someone pacey and nippy and quick, he's going to be caused a problem on Saturday.
Fair, if I'm right in thinking it'll be Jaden Stockley. If I'm right in thinking.
No, he's at Port Vale.
Oh, I forgot he's Port Vale now. 2 seconds. Let's have a quick look. Let's see what Fleetwood do in that last game.
Be right atmosphere Saturday, guys. I think it'll be a right atmosphere.
2-0.
If you get an early goal, that cop will be rocking if you get an early goal.
Well, the thing is,
the key, isn't it?
Say again, mate.
That's the key, isn't it? If you can get an early goal and take some of the pressure off yourselves and put the pressure well and truly elsewhere at Walsall.
Well, that's it. The thing is, though, we've been saying for weeks, and we've said all season, that City are brilliant when they get an early goal, and getting an early goal has been the key to winning games. But then we've done that at Swindon and Chesterfield and chucked points away.
True.
So, and like
but
said,
at home
with that on crowd, Saturday, and if we equalise, I want us to equalise late on. Just everything's been turned on its head. Normally, you get an early goal at City, you're good because teams have to come out and play, but who knows?
Let's.
Did you see who's up front, Chris?
I did, yeah, I'll be honest. It's not a name that I recognise. Something called Devonport. I'll be honest, I'm just looking at this Fleetwood squad. My God, has it changed a lot in the last 6 months or so since Wild's been there. But there aren't that many players in that lineup that are kind of what I would class as recognisable names. And I'd say trying to work out the forward line is.
And that's mad from you because your knowledge is.
Yeah, well, we were talking that yesterday about yours and Lou's knowledge. It's unsurpassed, really. But yeah, it looks like we've got. Well, if we play 3 centre halves, we've got Romney Critchlow, Paul Huntington, Callum Johnson, and Neil Byrne. 3 of those. If Shepherd isn't fit, I don't think Kelly will be fit. If Shepherd isn't fit, obviously Baldwin suspended. It's 3 of those 4 to play at the back. And like I said, we've just got to do everything we can, repeat the atmosphere we did against Colchester and Crewe, and try and get us over the line somehow.
The only other line on City, which I'm not going to go into, but I'm sure we will do if the job gets done over the weekend, is, of course, Graham Alexander was named as the EFL League 2 Manager of the Season. So they're certainly expecting that he's going to get the job done at the weekend. But we'll talk more on that one next week, as I say, should the job get done.
Must have been picked before the last 4 games.
Onwards then to Huddersfield Town, and there's not a huge amount to discuss for Town really in terms of not a great deal has changed. We still don't have a clue about who's going to be the new manager in the long term. The season's fizzling out to nothing, and as I said earlier on, it's 5 straight defeats for the Terriers. I mean, the latest result being Saturday, Downsy.
Yeah, obviously the Leeds lads might come in for their half-time review, so we'll probably have to split the town section in half.
Time for that. We don't have time for that. Let's just. I don't think they're going on, are they?
Well, what time did it kick off?
It's only half an hour in. Let's get Town done. We can
Town done first.
All right, cool. Exeter. Obviously, long trip down there, didn't it? For an absolute dead rubber. They had no to play for because they're safe. We had no to play for because we couldn't get the playoffs. Am I surprised that we lost? No, not really. Karoma scored the opening goal. Good finish, actually. Really, typical Karoma, sort of like gets it on the wing, runs at his full back quick and then slows it down and curls it into the bottom corner. Typical Karoma finish. We've seen him do it over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And then once again, just the tempo of the match, we just decided to go to crap, really. I mean, Exeter's goals, 2 of them could have been saved better by Chapman. He doesn't cover himself in a lot of glory for that because obviously Nichols was taken back out the side, Chapman put back in the side, and I think he would have been saying, to himself, I've got a chance, I'm back in now. I've got a chance in these last 2 games to show why I really should be number 1 next season. And if Nichols does go, obviously he's out of contract, so there's a big chance that Chapman will be number 1, unless we decide to bring a keeper in. So yeah, not good. Defending was poor again, and it's just like I just feel sorry for the poor sods that have gone nearly 800 miles to just watch it. It's just. There's some dedicated souls there that have watched the club for over 40 years, and just a way it's like it's not really the club that's dying in front of them, but it's like the football side is. for some of these fans that have watched us for 30, 40 years to say it's the worst football we've seen ever at Town, and we've seen some crap, by the way, like we've been down in League Two, but sometimes they're the best memories, being in, like, where you go to these absolute horrible holes and get wins and sort of like create memories. But this season, it's just not at it, and Exeter's just the whole match was a bit like an emphasis of how the entire season's gone, Chris, really. And Worthy again after the game was like, I don't really know what the lad's supposed to say now. He's just been asked again if he's going back to his academy job, which he said that he was, and he was looking forward to that. Supposedly, there might be a director of football coming in the next week or so, from what I understand. I don't know who that is, by the way. I haven't got any knowledge on that. But it would be interesting to see if that does happen. I think it does need to happen as quick as possible, and then get the whoever the manager is going to be in place. But by God, it's a depressing end to this season, and I can't wait for it to be finished against Leyton Orient after the final whistle.
There we go. That'll do. That'll pretty much about do. But I mean, let's touch on that, because obviously for Leyton Orient at the weekend, back at the Johnson Stadium for the final game of the season, and Leyton Orient have got everything to play for, because of course they are level on points as it stands with Reading. It's a straight shootout between Orient and Reading as to who will take that final playoff place. So everything to play for them at the Johnson Stadium, even if not for Town.
Yeah, listen, big credit there to Leyton Orient and Richie Wellens. I mean, he's gone there and he's done really well, hasn't he, as manager. Yeah, I don't think many had them in the top six at the beginning of the season. I think people thought that they might do all right, but definitely not top six. Reading, it's just incredible what Nolan's done. Genuinely, he's incredible. And if there isn't a football fan in the country that doesn't give him credit, they don't know what football is.
Could not stand him as a player. He was a freaking horrible player.
Yeah, he was.
Hated him, but
he was a decent player.
He isn't doing a bad job as a manager.
No, I think he's doing better than a decent job. I mean, with all the stuff behind the scenes, and
to be fair, though, Ruben Sellers had Reading around the playoffs as well before he went to Hull and was replaced. So
but also you have to say that Reading have lost their two best players in January. Yeah. In the striker, and was the other lad the centre back? Can't remember.
Bindon. Yeah.
Yeah. So they lost their two best players, and they didn't replace them. Definitely not, because they couldn't spend anything because they were under an embargo. So I think we'll get absolutely trounced by Leyton Orient. I can see it being we once lost to Brentford 5-1, and that was at the end of the promotion season to the Premier League. I can see it being something like that. They are going to come on Saturday and attack the hell out of us, because they'll be desperate to get in there. It's a big chance for them.
Play good football as well, Downsy.
Yeah. I mean, the thing for them is, like, are they going to do as well next season? Don't know. Will they have their players nicked? Yes, probably so. And will Richie Wellens be looked at for a better job? Definitely so. I mean, I'd take him at Town, really. I think he's one of them players anywhere. When he were on the pitch, he got people going, didn't he? He was an old style sort of
centre mid.
He's a funny one, isn't he, Richie Wellens? He's a real funny one, because he's done really well at some clubs and then not done particularly well at others. I mean, you look at Oldham, you look at Leyton Orient, where he's absolutely blasted it, and then you look at like Doncaster and Salford, although I know at Salford, Gary Neville says his two biggest regrets are sacking Richie Wellens and Graham Alexander.
Yeah.
But he's a funny one, Wellens. He really is.
I mean, I know that I don't want to get back onto full City chat, but obviously that's kind of the same a little bit for Grant McCann, innit? He's done well at Donny, and then he went to Hull and was horrific, and then he's gone back to Donny. So some people just suit different type of clubs, don't they? Yeah. But I just think we'll get trounced, Chris. I genuinely think it'll be a 4-0, something like that. Because our lads can't be bothered. You can just tell they're just not. Some of them are just on the beach. I mean, what I'd do if I were Worthy, I'd just play the kids on Saturday and go, lads, just have fun with it. Like, there's no tactics. You just go and have. If we lose 9-0, who gives a crap? We're not going to go anywhere in the league.
Reading fans will complain bitterly.
Yeah, of course they will. But my point, I'm not really fussed about Reading, and I'm not that fussed about Leyton Orient. I'm more fussed about us. And to be honest, it'd be a good experience for our young lads to go out there and have a taste of what an actual EFL fixture is all about. I know you can't do that for the rules, can you? You've got to play a certain amount of players, but yeah, it's all about off the field for Town and getting that sorted, and you know.
The other thing with Richie Wellens that I didn't mention is that we obviously Oldham and where he's done well and Leyton Orient. He obviously took Swindon up as well, didn't he? I forgot to mention Swindon.
Yeah, so he did. Yeah,
three good jobs: Oldham, Leyton Orient, Swindon. 2 disasters: Donny and Salford.
Yeah,
it's not a bad record, is it? Really.
And you know, of course, a positive from a 9-0 defeat for Downsy would be that if Lincoln can get a result and beat Wrexham weekend, that Lincoln would finish higher than Huddersfield in the table.
I'm really not bothered, Chris. I'm really not bothered.
He is.
I'm not. I really are. In a season where it now means absolutely naff all, I am really not bothered. What I am bothered about is that the eight out of contract players leave the football club as quickly as possible. That's what I am bothered about. And the other 6 or 7 on 1-year deals that are absolutely wastes of space, we get them out the door and all as quick as possible. But might be dreaming on that one. You know, it's obviously Chris Maxwell retired.
Yes.
You know, he's had a difficult season, problem with his heart, and you know, he's not really played because of certain injuries and stuff like that. So, from what I understand, very intelligent guy, doing his directorship sort of course or whatever it's called at the FA. So I think we will probably see him in and around the football world at some club, doing behind the scenes, whether that's, you know, being leading scouting or being a director of football or something, because apparently he has got a bit up top and he knows what he's doing. So
fair play.
Yeah.
Fair play. Gaz, I think, have you got a couple of quick little bits for Downsy just before we move on?
Just really quick ones based on stuff you said there, Downsy. You mentioned about the goalkeeper situation and Lee Nichols being in and out of the team. Are you a Town now in a situation where they don't really have, or they don't know who the first choice keeper is? Because Lee Nichols was always quite highly rated by you and obviously, well, fans of other clubs as well. He was seen as a top keeper, wasn't he? And obviously, I know you've had a young lad come in who's really done really, really well for you. But are you in that? The first one is, are you in that situation now where it's a bit 50-50 who the first choice is? The second question I was going to say is, you mentioned a director of football coming in. Are we now, therefore, looking at what we talked about last week, that a director of football will come in before a manager comes in?
So on the Nichols thing, I still think there's plenty of people. There's some that don't. Obviously, you get that in all fan groups, but the majority still think Nichols is a decent keeper, very much for sure for this level. The differences between the two are Nichols is an old school type where he's great at shot stopping. You know, he comes and catches the ball, gets his. You know, he's really sort of big and imposing, but he's slow. He don't get attacks going. And his kicking's never been the best. Where Chapman's more of a modern style, where, you know, he likes to get the play on going, and, you know, he's quite quick to release the ball. His distribution's absolutely fantastic. I mean, Chris will have watched him at Rochdale, and you know, he's got great feet as a goalkeeper, but he does make these errors. And I know when we say not young, I mean, he's 24, but, you know, in goalkeeper world, that is still, you know, quite youngish, isn't it? Really, he's a bit of he's a teenager, isn't he? He's coming into his prime, sort of thing. So, Nichols is out of contract. I don't think the club will offer him a new contract.
Right.
So I expect him to leave, and I think Chapman will be number one, barring the fact that if we'll have to sign two goalkeepers or at least one. whether it's a backup to Chapman or a more experienced lad to replace Maxwell. So
you would certainly think that a new face in the dugout will have ideas of bringing them, somebody that they will want anyway, and Chapman and whoever that can be will battle it out for that number one spot. You would expect.
Yeah, I would say so. But there's nothing wrong with Chappers. I mean, he's a really committed lad. That's the one thing I will say. He doesn't do anything half-hearted, and it's just a shame that he's made a few errors. Not many across the season in the games that he's played, but in the last game he certainly let to it.
That Bolton game, wasn't it? I think that
the
key one in particular.
It was, Chris.
The second question then from Gaz, which was about the sporting director or director of football, and then we're going to see him in before the manager by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's what we're going with.
Any names, any irons in the fire as to who it is? I know Stuart Webber was talked about last week, and is it Chris Markham who was at Bolton?
Chris Markham makes the one that makes the obvious choice because he's the town fan. He's a town fan, and his dad's a town fan. And they have been to games. I'm sure Chris Markham would love to be director of football at Town. It'd be like a dream job for him, wouldn't it? Really, being a Town fan, and especially if he gets it right. Can you imagine being the director of football that gets your club back to the Championship, and you're a fan of the club? It couldn't be better, could it? Really. I'm sure they've got eyes on other people. Whether it's, I just want it to be from this country. I don't really, or a top scout maybe in Europe or something that could step up. I don't want it to be from America again. I'll be absolutely honest, unless they've got proper. Well, because that's what Matt Cartwright was. He was from Stoke. He did Stoke, but then he went to America for 4 years. I think you've got to have somebody here that's in the game, that knows the players, has got the proper contacts. Yeah. So I expect them to announce director of football in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, hopefully, God forbid, and then it's all down to the manager. But and I can only see 4 options, if I'm honest. Rob Edwards, Mowbray, Pearson, and David Wagner. I can't, there's no other man unless we're going for an unknown that I've never heard of, that you probably have, Chris, in Europe. I honest to God don't see any other choice. The only outside one apart from that is Des Buckingham, but he's had
Buckingham
3/4 of a good season on Oxford.
Buckingham would be a good shout. In fact, I put Buckingham ahead of Mowbray. I put Buckingham. Who else did you just name then? Sorry, Mowbray, Pearson,
Pearson, and Rob Edwards.
I'd probably put Buckingham out of those. Well, call it 5 with Buckingham in it.
Well, David Prutton on
Edwards,
David Prutton, the Sky.
Great appointment.
David Prutton, the Sky presenter and obviously ex-player, he said Rob Edwards would be the perfect fit. I think Rob Edwards would be a good fit in terms of get his reputation back on track after Luton. Is Luton all down to him? I don't know. I mean, he did great, didn't he, in terms of getting him up. I know what can happen in a club when you come down from the Premier League, how it can be torn to shreds, and it's not always the manager's fault. Players get greedy, staff happen, and there's loads of stuff that goes on. So,
did a good job at Forest Green as well.
He did. So I can see Rob Edwards being a good fit. David Wagner's the emotional choice. We don't need to go over that one. The only thing with Des Buckingham is I think he's good, but did he work at Oxford because he's literally an Oxford legend and been there for 20 odd years? And he only had 3/4 of a good season, didn't he? Really, if we're honest.
Well, he's done well. He's done well elsewhere, though. You can't just discount the work he'd done elsewhere in other countries just because he was in other countries as well. To be fair, and he's won titles it was Sydney and with Mumbai or something along those lines.
Yeah, but we're talking levels. We're talking levels.
Yeah, but I mean, you say that
Mumbai compared to League One football, Chris. Come on,
it's still. Like trophies, it's still experience. It's still things on the CV that we don't have, that you don't have, that I don't have.
I won a junior football tournament up in Sunderland, 20 years ago. It doesn't mean that I'm an EFL League One manager.
Who would be your choice, Downsy?
He's
Who
got
would you
promoted
go
out of League
for?
One as well, though.
If you want me to, Mowbray's thrown a proper head shot into it, you know,
I don't see it.
No, I don't think he would drop, but I tell you what, it'd be a right coup if we did.
Would it?
Yeah, I do. I do. Don't you?
He hasn't done really well anywhere for a long time. He's done okay at places recently without success, though.
Yeah, but all we need is okay to get us up.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It
I'm
isn't
not
enough to get up.
No. It's what I'm asking. We're not asking for miracles.
Like,
We're not asking
do
for
okay at Town next season. We'll see you finish 7th or 8th again and miss out on the playoffs.
There's a big job. It's a big job, is Town, with everything that's gone on. But you've got to see it as a new start. Now, do you want? You've also got to think of someone. Obviously, you're going to get a director of football in. You've got to think of someone who's going to work under that model. I know a lot of them do nowadays, but the relationship and the power hierarchy has got to be right.
Yeah, and that's why Rob Edwards is the obvious choice.
Right.
I think he's my number one.
Okay.
Wagner's obviously the emotional choice. I mean, if Wagner comes back, it's brilliant as well. But if you want me to be non-biased on Wagner, I would go for Rob Edwards. Now, whether he would drop down, that's another thing altogether in it. But
it'd be interesting because I could see him getting something like the Cardiff job.
Yeah, I could as well, Chris. 100%.
Be interesting.
Cardiff's going to be a massive club. Cardiff are a bigger club than Town.
It's going to be a really interesting one. I mean, to be fair, obviously, come get this weekend out of the way, there'll probably be another half a dozen EFL jobs on the market as well across all the divisions.
Managers.
So,
and I agree I agree that the league will be closer next season because you won't have a Birmingham and you won't have a Wrexham, you know, splashing the cash and spending the money. So it will be more concertinaed, but it's whether Town can be in that higher echelon of a concertinaed table. That's what you need, you know.
We'll see. I'm just quickly going to touch on a couple of the comments from Jed, who joins us. He joins regularly from Bondi, from Australia. Yeah. So God knows what time it is.
Hey up, Jed, lad.
Jed is another shrimp on the barbie.
A director of football who doesn't drop $1 million plus in agent fees like the last one.
That'd be good, Jed.
Needs major surgery. And then one final thing, which we'll just touch on quickly as well, is he was asking about the season ticket situation, Downser. How are they going? Any better than last week?
Apparently not. I'll be honest. From what I understand, there's been no numbers, but I've had it circulated to me that apparently not. So that's why
you will.
That's why I think they're desperate, absolutely desperate to get David Wagner back.
Is it Webber and Wagner?
I don't think Webber will come back, but they're desperate to get Wagner back.
Do you think that's the first choice?
Oh, guys, to sell season tickets, it's the only choice, mate.
Yeah,
it's the only choice marketing wise. I'll be honest, but
it's going to be
the massive problem for Wagner for if it goes wrong, that you won't get Town fans blaming Wagner if it goes wrong because he'll never be
the hierarchy.
Exactly. So it could end up being let's hope it goes right.
Risk on both sides.
Massive summer for Town.
Massive, guys. Massive.
Just before we move on to non-league, halftime in the Leeds game in the Championship, they're leading 1-0 at the break. And don't forget that a little bit later on, probably around 10 o'clock or just after, that Brownie and Jay will be on with full live post-match reaction. And they're not speculating over everything as well. We seem to have gone through a week with Leeds United where it's been Farke's going to be replaced, then Farke isn't going to be replaced, and now more articles, I think, from The Guardian today suggesting that Farke may be replaced. So
he won't be. He won't.
That's going to be interesting to go around.
I thought the club confirmed it.
Oh yeah, allegedly so. But since then, there's new articles come out in like more corners of the press. They're saying actually no, he may be replaced. No,
he won't.
It was one of the ones that was mentioned. I say change him because it's exciting for all of us.
I think what they do is they have someone lined up ready.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
What, when they sack him in 10 games?
Yeah. Horrible as it sounds, I think they do. Yeah.
Do you know what's
Let's-
worse for him? What's
Go on.
I know you didn't want to touch on Leeds, but it's absolutely horrendous for him, isn't it? Because he's got the club
Hell.
up. He's no, in a sense it is from a human level because he knows he's only got 10 games, and if they all go wrong or he don't get enough points, he's
Yeah,
out anyway.
yeah.
It's not like the fans really like we was when we went up. Wagner could have lost all 38 games, and he'd have still been a legend.
Same with Jagger at City when we did it.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. Yeah.
It is
But
different,
Farker's
though, innit?
not that, is he?
No.
It's mad.
It's football, though, innit? And
It is.
I can see both sides like with this because Farkas,
What other
he's
club
never
can you
had
name that
relationship.
happened though, Chris? What you've got great knowledge. What other club in the history of football
What in
has
terms
a side
of
gone up?
change now?
A side has won promotion from the second division and say they could win the title next week on Saturday, and then they sack their manager before the next season's even began.
Yeah, it does happen often. In terms of like 10, 12, whatever games in, the one that comes to mind for me is Nigel Adkins when he was let go of by Southampton. And at the time, it seemed like an extremely harsh sacking because I think Southampton were doing all right. They weren't bottom
Yeah, they
three by
were.
any stretch.
Yeah,
They were doing all right under Adkins. And I remember that it haunts me every now and every year it comes around my Facebook memories and it haunts me. I put a Facebook status on saying what a terrible decision this is by the Southampton board, appointing a foreign manager and this Pochettino chap, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Little did I know that actually turned out quite all right for Southampton and Pochettino, I think. So what do I know?
We sacked Lee Clark in January, but at least we got Grayson in. It's swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, let's wrap up then by finishing with the non-league scene and another busy weekend across our region. Guiseley, they got a 1-1 draw at FC United Manchester, so they are going into the playoffs tomorrow night against Stockton Town away, which we said last week actually on Thursday when Lou was on that Stockton is not a particularly pleasant one to go to. It's a kind of a sports ground on a college complex. It's not it's a 3G pitch. It's not what you class as a proper football stadium. It's a little bit of a weird one in Stockton. But to be fair, Stockton Town, who came up last season from the MPL East, have done very, very well. So it's going to be a difficult one for Guiseley. Also, FC Halifax Town.
I'm just looking at the table now.
For the National League,
yes. Yeah, so they're currently 6th, obviously.
Beat Braintree on Saturday by a 0-0, which, as I say, keeps them 6th. The playoffs are confirmed. The only thing really now for the National League table is to decide on who is finishing where in terms of 4th, 5th, and 6th. Southend and Gateshead will battle it out on the final day to see who takes 7th. Yeah. And then I'll say it's just up to Oldham, Rochdale, and Halifax now as to who's going to finish where. Rochdale, though, can wrap up 4th and guarantee 4th with a win at Solihull Moors tomorrow night, which is where I'm going to be. Yay.
Solihull
Moors on a Tuesday night. It's just what you live for.
So just to confirm, though, Halifax on the last day could drop to 7th if Southampton win. Southend.
Good grief.
If Southend win, because they've got a better goal difference than Halifax. So that really is quite a key game for Halifax. They only need a point, but it determines who they play in the playoffs then.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. I know, obviously, kind of, look, everybody wants to finish 4th and 5th if they can, because that at least guarantees the home tie in the eliminator games. But then you've got to factor in that you potentially, if Town could get 5th, then the likelihood is they'll have to play Oldham. And that's, honestly, these National League playoffs look like just impossible to call from this stage.
So who will play who, Chris, at the moment, as the table stands?
As the table stands, it would be Rochdale would play Southend in 4th v 7th, and then Oldham would be at home to Halifax as it stands in 5th v 6th.
And who do you think Halifax, because obviously every position in that table can change, who do you think Halifax would most want to play?
Honestly?
Oldham? Or maybe
It's-
Southend.
it's
If Halifax were at
because
home,
you would say Southend, but Halifax's home form hasn't been the best, and also you then have to factor in that if it is Southend, because of course Gateshead, it could be Gateshead. But if it's Southend, then Southend are the side coming into this in great form. They've multiple wins on the bounce. They're the side that are coming in with real momentum.
that's
If
true.
it's Gateshead that can get the job done against Southend, and therefore Gateshead would finish 7th, you would almost want them, because even though they would have that be going off the back of that win, their form over the last 6, 8, 10 games has been pretty poor. They have clung on to a playoff spot if they make it come Monday by the absolute skin of their teeth. And then, as it stands, Rochdale, I mean, decent run of form at the moment, but obviously with Solihull tomorrow and Braintree on Monday, it might be slightly different. The form could be different. And Oldham, I mean, no Oldham fan expects them to go up. Everybody from the outside looks at Oldham and thinks they will, but they've been wanting Mickey Mann to be out for the majority of the season. You know, they've been sat 4th at times early in the season, and they want Mickey Mellon gone.
Really?
So
that reminds me actually. The Walsall fans want Sadler out, don't they? It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Just crazy.
But it's a weird one because, to be fair, Oldham have been like, yeah, I can kind of get it though at the same time, because even though they have maintained a playoff place, they've also been pretty poor and have had some really bad defeats, like at sides that they really should have been beating. It's been a really weird National League season in where the sides that are currently occupying those 4 eliminator places have just been so inconsistent over the course of the season.
I just expect York to win the playoffs. Honest to God, if
Yeah.
York don't win, it's the biggest bottle. I know, guys, you were talking about bottle jobs,
Well,
but Jesus Christ, if York don't go up,
I don't know.
I don't
Go
know.
on.
no, mate, York have been
No,
smashing people left, right, and centre all season.
But York haven't been top. At no
No,
point
exactly.
were York light years ahead of anyone. York have been chasing Barnet for the majority of the season. And
Been chasing them.
Up until 10 or 12 games ago, it was a very even race between Barnet, York, and Forest Green. There was only 2 or 3 points between them for the majority of the season. It's only in the last, as I say, maybe 8 to 10 games that Barnet have actually turned the screw, got the job done, and got themselves over the line. Whilst Barnet, I know York lost at Braintree before them beating Rochdale by 4-0 like the game after. So,
Chris, 18 points over Rochdale.
That's what I was just going to say, though. But
that's not really about how many points. They're still 6 points behind Barnet, so they've not bottled it.
It reminds me a little bit. Of the Notts County Wrexham scenario when they were both just miles better than everybody else. Not to the same extent, but obviously people were saying that about. I think Notts County did get over the line in the playoffs in the end, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So this is the thing. There's no. I mean,
I hope Facts do it just for Dave,
York would easily be heavy favourites, I think, going into these playoffs, regardless. And I know from the Rochdale perspective at the moment, the kind of the way that we're talking our media team is that we want to finish 4th. We want to finish 4th, because then that would avoid having to go to York in the playoff semi. If we were to get through the eliminated game, we'd then have to go to Forest Green. And even though I'm thinking Forest Green won't be easy, we're all looking at thinking it still looks a simpler route than having to go to bloody York.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be interesting, these National League playoffs, it's fair to say.
York are going to do it eventually. They've got so much backing now that if they don't do it this year, they will do it in the next couple of years.
This is the other thing, is that we're like, well, if York can just like disappear now up through the playoffs, if you know, as I say, if Rochdale weren't to get through the eliminator or whatever, if York can just disappear, that'll help us all out next season. Except for the fact that Carlisle United are bloody coming down, obviously under Mark Hughes.
With rich American owners.
Looks likely that Mark Hughes may well stay on for the National League Challenge. They're also not, as we know from what they've done in League 2 this season, they're not shy of spending money. So we're all thinking, oh, for Christ's sake, because Carlisle will be easy odds-on favourites to win the league next season, even ahead of York at this stage, if York stay down.
Could York do a Wrexham?
No. They've got rich owners, but they haven't got that sort of backing.
But could they go into League 2 and really, really like be up there?
Potentially. With again, look, it's like any club. The recruitment's got to be right. If they get the recruitment right, then yes, they could be a top 7 side potentially.
Yeah. But I just don't
quite see it. Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, you look at all them teams. I don't see Barnet going on and doing out. York, I could. Like all the other clubs, they'd be. I'm not saying they'd be lucky to survive in League Two because I think you have to be really crap to get relegated from League Two. But
no promoted side from the National League has ever gone down from League Two in its first season. So there's 57 clubs have gone up into League Two from the National League since its inception in 87, 88, and nobody has ever come straight back down.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of says a lot about the standard. Actually, the sides that do come up, they usually do all right. But then you look at the likes of Harrogate in the last few years, and they've kind of just leveled out at anything between 15th and 19th. But that's not bad going either. Salford, they did have a playoff year, I think. To be fair, Salford a couple, but they've cut the budgets though. The money they went big the first couple of seasons. I think around the time that Wellens would have been in charge, actually, Gaz.
Yeah, he wasn't there for very long, but yeah.
And they were kind of top end of League Two sort of thing, maybe around those playoff races. And then obviously, as the years have gone on, I think the investment's been cut somewhat by, is it Peter Lim, who
he's had his own financial issues, hasn't he?
Yeah, so he's his money's not being in Salford anymore, so hence why they're not, they're doing
Does
all
he
right.
own Valencia?
He did. I don't know if he still does, but he was financially involved with Valencia.
That's just mental, isn't it? That he owned like Salford and Valencia.
Gary Neville ending up as the Valencia coach.
Yeah.
What? I know we want to move on. So, like, do we all think that Facts are going to do it?
No. I'm sitting on the fence with this one because I've got half my Rochdale hat on, half my West Yorkshire Watershow hat on.
Be horrendous if Rochdale versus Halifax, wouldn't it?
I'm trying to think what would have to happen for that to be the final at Wembley. You just have to, I guess, avoid each other in the eliminators, win the semi-finals, and then meet at Wembley. That would be a heck of a final, to be fair.
What do you think, Gaz? Do you think?
I honestly don't know. I don't know enough about the conference, mate, to comment. I honestly couldn't. I know a little bit about, obviously, York having money and that, but I couldn't comment. And I know Halifax with Chris Millington will always be a problem for everybody. So
yeah,
I don't know. I honestly couldn't comment. What I will say is, and Chris mentioned it before about Carlisle, and we also mentioned it on the show last week. Truro got promoted from Conference South.
Yes.
And so Carlisle Truro will be a National League fixture next season. Now, what a journey that is for away supporters.
That must be the longest journey going. Has to be.
So, if we think it's bad for next season, even this season, for Truro City supporters, their next nearest away game has been more than 3 hours away.
Ooh.
In the National League
South.
That has to be that has to be a record, Carlisle Truro for an away fixture. It has to be.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if it isn't. Oh, actually, you say that. I think it's going to be pretty bad because, yes, you've got Carlisle obviously on the west, but on the east of the National League, you've got Gateshead, Hartlepool. You could see.
Are they as high as Carlisle though, country-wise?
I don't know. I don't think there'll be too much in it, but also they've got a factor that Carlisle's on the west of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is it, Gaz. Yeah, I know exactly what that line means.
I just think
you've got a wavelength there, Chris.
I really hope Halifax do it for Dave. And what you have to say about Chris Millington is for him to do it over the last 4 seasons or whatever, literally gets his squad destroyed and he has to start again, and they every season end up in the playoffs.
Not quite.
No, but that's the way Dave says it.
They lose 2 or 3 a season, it seems.
Yeah,
of what you would class as the key players, but he's always recruited quite well, to be fair, and replaced well. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. This time next week with the National League, the final games of the National League being on the Bank Holiday Monday, that I won't be here to be honest. I think Brownie will be. We'll know exactly then by this point next week who Halifax will play in those eliminators in the playoffs. Gaz.
We did mention it as well last week, but it's worth saying again. I know Gates had got a mention. They're over their issue, aren't they, with this time, aren't they?
Yes, so they are fine to compete. The council are backing them this time rather than...
I know we mentioned it last week, but it was just worth saying again.
It's nice at council to back them, isn't it?
The other thing to mention as well, actually, is whilst we touch on Truro going up into the National League, is for the National League North. It was a 3-horse race between Kidderminster,
Yeah.
Brackley, and Scunthorpe. And out of the three of them, Kidderminster bottled it by losing away at Southport. Scunthorpe got a 1-0 win away at Hereford, but it wasn't enough because Farnsley were in action at Brackley, but lost by 4-0. So Brackley, but to be fair, they didn't mess about. I think they were 2-0 up inside the first 15, 20 minutes or so. They
Scunny fans expected that. Scunny fans expected
Yeah.
that. They knew that they were never going to. My best mates are Scunny fans, and they knew they weren't going to get out from Farnsley.
It was all on Kidderminster, really, because it seemed inevitable that Brackley would get their job done against Farnsley, which they did. But that's to say, Kidderminster losing at Southport is not what we expected, because Southport, I think, finished like 19th, 18th, 19th. So yeah, Brackley, after many years of knocking on the door to get out of the National League North, have done that as well. That's it'll be a next season.
Is that a second year in the playoffs for Scunny, who are obviously,
it is.
What I can gather, they're very well backed for that level, aren't they? So, a bit of a disappointment for them, but hopefully, will they get over the line in the playoffs this year where they couldn't last year?
Local businesswoman owns them now.
Yeah,
it's well run. Well, supposedly it's well run now.
That's what it was.
They're getting over the stuff that they had going on.
2 years in the playoffs.
They're not happy about it. Put it that way. They expected to trounce that league.
It'll be Chester versus Buxton and Chorley versus Kings Lynn. And off the top of my head, let me just see if I can find the relevant article. I think it will be Scunthorpe will play Chorley or Kings Lynn, and Kidderminster, I think, will play Chester or Buxton in the semi-finals. The final.
This is where we have your knowledge. This is why we have your knowledge.
Need you and Lou on non-league.
Me and Gaz wouldn't know that.
No, we need Chris and Lou, don't we?
The final bit, really, for the non-league bit across our region, really was the final day of the NPL East.
Yeah.
In which there were a couple of interesting results. We'll quickly run through them. Brad Park Avenue, they were beaten at home by Ashington by 1-0. Liversidge, they drew 1-1 away at Cleethorpes Town. So already relegated Liversidge. That would have been a really good point on the face of it against champions Cleethorpes. But as I say, it was just too little too late. Emily, they beat Concert by 2-1. Garforth lost the Yorkshire Derby at home to Pontefract Collieries by 1-0. Newton Aycliffe drew 0-0 away at Ossett. And Brighouse, again, already relegated, but they got a win against rock bottom Sheffield, which means that because Newton Aycliffe drew 0-0 at Ossett, and because Emily beat Concert by 2-1, that puts Emily into the playoffs. They were just outside, weren't they, last week? They were 6th coming into the final day and have got themselves back into 5th. So they will travel to Dunstan UTS tomorrow, whilst Stocksbridge Park Steels will play Belper Town tomorrow night as well. And obviously, Downs, you're close to Richard Tracy and everyone at Emily. I mean, they'll be buzzing to have got back into those playoff places. But let's be honest, Dunstan, look, we said earlier that miracles can happen in football. It's a bloody tough one to go to. Dunstan beating in the playoffs last season.
Yeah, I said last week that I spoke to Richard, or on Thursday, sorry, I spoke to Richard Tracy and going into the last game, they weren't confident, to be honest. They were, they were going to back themselves, but they weren't, confident about getting in there. I think they sort of expected Newton Aycliffe to pick up the points that they needed, and obviously that didn't happen.
Helped out by Ossett.
Well, I did mention this to Richard, and he kind of said, well, he did offer James Walshaw to come over from where they were playing to have a beer, but apparently they were having their own party, so which was fair enough. I mean, he's done great there to keep them up on him. But listen, they're excited for the playoffs. They know what a tough task it is. I mean, I spoke to Richard just a couple of hours ago to do the preview piece for Emily, and he's basically said it's all on Dunstan. Like, all the pressure is on them. You look at they played them 3 times this season, beat them in the cup, the FA qualification first round trophy for the FA trophy, which they won 2-0. Emily, that was in the first league fixture, which was at Emily, they drew 2-2. And then on March the 1st, they lost 3-0 up at Dunstan. So according to Richard, that was one of the worst games they've played this season. It was over and done with quite quickly. The fixture, so there's lots of lessons to be learned from the previous fixture there. But yeah, the message is basically go and enjoy it, lads. You've got chance to create another bit of history for the club. And the pressure's all on them. That Dunstan lost in the playoff final, which you said earlier on, against Stockton Town. Actually drew 4-4 in the game and lost 5-3 on penalties. So they won't want to go through playoff art again. So yeah, it's going to be a really tough test. I think out of all the teams, they would have least wanted to face Dunstan.
Yeah, without doubt. So just confirmation of the playoff games then that are tomorrow night, as mentioned as well, in the Northern Premier League Premier Division. Guys are away at Stockton Town. They will face Worksop Town or Ashton United. So the best outcome for Geyser would be obviously to get past Stockton in the semi-final tomorrow, and for Ashton to, let's be honest, surprise things and upset the apple cart by beating Worksop, because that would then mean that Geyser will be at home against Ashton United on Monday. If Worksop were to beat Ashton and Geyser were to get through, they would have to travel to Worksop on Monday.
Tough trip, isn't it?
It is indeed. As for the East, Midlands, and the West, they're the relevant semi-finals there. So as you can see, Emily away at Dunstan and Stocksbridge Park Steels at home to Belper. They play tomorrow, and the finals for each of those divisions is on Saturday. Saturday for the East, Midlands, and West, and then Bank Holiday Monday for the Premier Division. So there's one or two names in there as well. I mean, Gaz,
Worcester City.
Yeah,
Worcester FA Cup, Vauxhall Motors down there.
It's an interesting bunch, to be fair, in these MPL playoffs, it has to be said. And I mean, you've got Congleton of Cheshire with little old Chasetown as well. Hensford, who are fairly reasonably spending, based just outside of Walsall against Vauxhall Motors. And Vauxhall Motors are one of those names synonymous with non-league football due to FA Cup runs in years gone by. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend. And look, let's hope that for our sake tomorrow night, first and foremost, that Geyser can do the job at Stockton and that Emily can get the job done up at Dunstan. Two difficult games, but, we'll always back our sides, hopefully.
And pray for Bradford on Saturday. Please, lads, pray for us on Saturday to get over the line.
Pray for Town to... No, don't bother. I won't be bothering either. I'm more bothered about Emily right now, to be honest. I really hope the lads win tomorrow.
Yeah.
I really hope the lads win. It's such a good news story for the area, and obviously Golka, it was sad that they haven't, been able to get over the line for them this season. But I think there's a lot of goodwill in Huddersfield for the two teams, and I was saying to my dad earlier on, like, you speak about Rodri, in the Premier League, saying that how many games players have to play. These lads are going to be working all day tomorrow, working their asses off in car factories and the rest of it, and then they're having to go up to bloody Dunstan. It's Rodri needs to sit back and shut up, really.
Have a think, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Have a think. I mean, let's hope, because if if Emily are to be able to get to the final on Saturday week at Stocksbridge or Belper, I think myself and possibly you down to might fancy a little trip somewhere for Emily's final on Saturday.
Well, I'm going to go clap the lads around the field at the John Smiths, are they, against Leighton Orient?
Yeah, they deserve clapping, don't they? Good grief.
I don't know. To be fair, Chris, I'll have
the V's instead.
To be fair, Chris, I will have a think about it, but let's not jinx the Emily the ticket too much.
Leeds are currently 2-0 up in that game against Bristol City. Looks like that's going to be home and hosed for them with a little over half an hour to go. A reminder as well that you can join Brownie and Jay with their full post-match reaction as soon as full time goes at Elms Road.
Get the sick bucket out. Get it out. Jesus Christ.
And on that note, on that supporting note from our town colleague to our Leeds United colleagues, we'll wrap things up there.
Really.
Thanks to everyone that's followed the stream and has been watching tonight, and to Jed for his numerous comments in from the other side of the world. Enjoy the rest of your week. All the best to Emily and to Guiseley in their playoff matches tomorrow night. And we'll be back next week with our usual Monday roundup here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. Good night.
Pray for Bradford. Send us all the best wishes you can. We need you on Saturday. Come on, boys.
Up the city. Up the city.